So through here, we've got the Honda, which is obviously in the car. This is 625 mounts. They're actually for a K24 rear-wheel drive application, but with different spacers and stuff, they can be put onto a K20 A2. Hack Engineering, because they sold us the K-Power rear-wheel drive cast intake manifold and a couple other goodies like a B-series, the throttle body. So then we just have the TPS, because obviously on the K-Power, the idle air control valve isn't on the, it is on the manifold, sorry, not on the throttle body. So there's no point in having two, because then you just need to buy a blank. It gets blanked off anyway. Inside here is a new water pump. That is an iconic auto steel K20 A2 oil sump. So in the K24s, you have to do some modification to the like where the plug is, a little bit of a hammer, and then it clears the subframe. With this one, it keeps the kind of original design. You don't have to change pickup point, but what it does do is with the cork gasket, it actually brings it up just that tiny bit higher. And then you don't need to do the clearance in with these mounts, which is always nice. An E36 slim steering shaft. It's actually an E90, but the E46 height, because with these, it's actually subframe spacers go on. I think they're 22 mil. So yeah, you need to account for that. Got a Walton manifold for the K20. It is suited for the Turbo Smart. I think I've got an Ultragate 45, I think it is. And the Garrett G25 550. A new release bearing for the gearbox, just because while you're kind of have everything out, just do everything. I can't remember what's in that box. I don't think it's overly important. Tegawa for head gasket and seals and everything to kind of rebuild the motor. The T7 designs, so that kind of stuff is all for your coolant system. Stuff like the rotation for changing the thermostat housing, because obviously rear-wheel drive, instead of it facing that way, you want it to kind of come that way and up. They also make the K20 rear-wheel drive, the upper head coolant ports, kind of directs it the right way as well. You can convert it to AN, which we always do. PMC for the adapter plate. So we use the G-Trag box from the E36, mount straight onto the K20. Sits perfectly, don't have to change anything. That mixed with the Born to Drift steel transmission mount, because I always have problems with the aluminium ones. Inside the 625 Inc, they actually supply you with rev shift motor mounts and gearbox mounts, so that's always handy as well. That's pretty much everything for parts. There's a couple other things that you'll miss, but when we start building the motor up, I'll obviously show you kind of how it all goes. So for management, obviously we've got the Honda, but we also use the hybrid racing kind of standalone universal kit. Comes with a couple of wires that we don't use anyway, so we just trim it down. And then the Honda lives in here, where the ECU mounts normally kind of lives. And this is the K20 lube here. So I've kind of stripped it back, left out this, which is your map, air intake, temp, TPS and stuff like that. Because these all need to get extended to sit, obviously, rear wheel drive here. Obviously that needs to come off. We're going to reinforce the front subframe, save it cracking, all those weak points. Kind of painted the bay, it's not the best job in the world, but it works. And then obviously we've done some welding here, stitch weld it, give this a bit more rigidity, block this off, block that off. We'll keep majority of these. Obviously the brake booster needs to go back on. I run with a brake booster. Cable throttle, because it still uses a B-series cable anyway, or it's a E36 throttle cable, but it reaches to the B-series throttle body, so that's fine. This is the charge harness. Inside your charge harness is pretty much the exact same, just slimmed down. That goes to the K20 loom, and obviously you give this power 12 volt all the time, which goes on the isolator switch. And then just your alternator and stuff to kind of make everything work. Inside the car is pretty bare at the moment. We've not really done much in here. Obviously I've routed my ECU cables through. Really simple with the hybrid racing. You've got ignition 1, ignition 2, fuel pump, and then that's your starter signal. Nothing particularly fancy there. Over from here, obviously we're keeping the original steering column and key. On my other E36K swap, we did a switch panel, which lived here inside the dash, and there was a separate fuse box there. We're going to keep that kind of similar system, but we're going to do it all through the original key and everything, because it's half a road car for this one. So obviously the wipers will work, so will the screen wash. and then that comes down here into the original box, which we've just kind of taped onto there, keep everything tidy. And then off of here, it's just your power, and then all these other ones kind of ground back into themselves into like a kind of all-in-one ground, which goes up to there. Nothing particularly fancy. These are all headlight looms that I've remade. Obviously the headlights only work off of 4 wires, so that's all you need. That's for the right side. The other one's currently outside the car. Oh no, it's there. Yeah, nothing for fuel. On the last one, I just run single pump, and then obviously your siphon or your level sender thingy that takes fuel back over to feed this pump. I might run dual pumps in this, not entirely sure yet. I don't think it calls for it. With the Walbro, I had plenty of fuel, and it never starved ever, and that was with drift in it as well. So obviously the system works. Whether or not I want to change it, not entirely sure. So true rear coilovers, HSDs, pretty sure the Monopros actually bought them with the car, which means I'll need to reinforce the rear shock points. Not the end of the world again. Obviously no wiring in here yet, but it's pretty simple. A couple of grounds that stay in the back. Obviously the battery gets mounted through there, and just a couple of plugs which will go through the car and then link into the kind of the chassis harness that we're making up anyway. Yeah, there's not really much to be done back here. If I was keeping it away from being a road car, I'd do what I did on my other one and basically cut this all out, this whole thing here, and we also cut the chassis rails off, and then we cap them, and I actually did a metal shell which I'll attach in the video here.
Always in the mood, I'm acting brand new. I ain't trying to tell you what to do, but try to play it cool. Really, I ain't playing by your rules. Everything look better with a view. Why you always in the mood? So I'm acting brand new. I ain't trying to tell you what to do, but try to.
Where I kind of cut it there on the coupe, and then that can all be removed so that you basically have a clamshell for the rear, but just made out of metal, which kind of saves any fiberglass issues. And I hate working with fiberglass. And the car looks a bit haggard, but it's okay. It's fine. 80mm extended Wizards of lock arms, because drifter, new ball joints to go in there. K20 head that needs to get the EN10 bungs welded on for the breathers. I did have an engine for it, but this is where, well, this was through in the workshop, but this engine can't be used anymore. I don't think it will actually work, but underneath here, anyway, the liners, there's rust in them, so it's obviously had a head gasket problem before, and I'm not willing to really use it. A bunch of other spare bits in here, your water pump housing. So on my old one, on here, there is a cheaper way to do the rear-wheel drive swap. So obviously this sits like that if you're looking at the engine, or kind of looks out at you like that if you're looking at the front or the side of the engine. And the easiest way to do it that I found was if you actually cut this bit here, because it doesn't do anything other than hold a pulley, and we used the T7 Designs alternator relocation kit. So obviously the alternator sat way further down and you didn't need this extra pulley. You could tension it with their kit. So we cut this off and we used the Skunk 2 Ultra manifold, and obviously they're a 2-piece. So if you undo the Allen keys, what you can actually do is you can flip them around, and I'll attach a video here. Yeah, so you can flip them around, and you don't actually need to use the K-Power rear-wheel drive one, because it's not 100% needed. Other than that, there's not any modifications you need to do to the block or anything. You do need to modify the gearbox. So we've got a bunch of tires ready to be used. Oh, where's the gearbox at? It's over that side. K20 gearbox, E36 gearbox. If you know your E36s, you'll be quite familiar with these. Anyway, Slave lives there. And in the Honda, if you're looking at the gearbox, this is like the top of it. This is like the bottom. Around here on this hole here, you actually need to trim around here to let the K20 starter come in with a PMC adapter kit. It's not the end of the world. It just takes a couple of tries to get it right. And then that hole here and this hole here, or that hole, I can't remember, it's one of the two. They actually need to be kind of burred out a little bit for the adapter plate, because the adapter plate actually runs M57, M52, M54, D-Track, ZF, and the 6-speed and 5-speed. It's like a universal plate. So if you just do a little bit of modification, you can make that box work. Front end of the car, dash, and a bunch of other stuff. This is all case swap stuff from the last build. Well, not case swap stuff, but K-series stuff that's not needed. That was the old exhaust that I bought the car with. A couple of D-series stuff because I got the EG as well. That's actually from a Golf. This is the stuff that I removed from the engine. Just passed. The alternator actually spins, which is surprising given that it had been sat for ages. So yeah, you just take off the intake. Fuel management, you need to go obviously to our return system. So Torx or a couple other places make a return fuel system, ANs on each side, blank off the center, and then add a gauge and a fuel return, pressure regulator and stuff, because obviously the 36 runs a return system and the K20 doesn't, so you can't use the original fuel rail. I mean, you could probably modify it or you could probably make it work, but just for the sake of a couple £100, make it return. And they normally run a lot nicer as well, because obviously you can kind of control the pressure a lot easier. A couple of AN lines. So for cooling, we run AN16. It just makes life a lot easier and cleaner than trying to find plastic hoses that may or may not fit. Couple of, I think that's AN8. I use that for fuel line. Pretty sure that's, maybe that's AN6 actually. So we use AN6 for, I actually don't remember. AN10 for return oil, return. AN4 for feed, which I don't think I have any left. AN8 for fuel, and then I can't remember what we use the AN6 for. Maybe the power steering. We use an electric pump, Corsa or Safira electric pump, the TRW ones, because they're tried and tested and they just work well with only very minimal wiring. It's even got the OBD2, which we have inside our one as well. And I'll probably cut a hole on the inside so that you can still plug it in. Even though Honda kind of obviously tells you DTCs anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter. But always cool to have if it's a road car. For a track car, I suppose it doesn't really matter, but